Which of the following structures are marked as 1, 2, and 3, respectively, on the reflex arc? So we have our 1, we have our 2, and we have 3, and we see that there's 3 options on this diagram, so we want it to be in this order, 1, 2, and 3. So before even looking at this diagram and then comparing it to the chart on the right, let's just review what happens in this diagram in general. So we see that there's a stimulus, so there's some sort of sensation that the body is responding to. Maybe you're touching something hot, maybe you feel something, some sort of stimulation that would cause this process to occur. And then after you feel that stimulation, your receptors recognize that stimulation. We go through these 3 steps that we're going to identify, and then there's a response, an effect. So, for example, if we're feeling something hot, the response might be to then move your hand away. So based on that, let's identify what the steps would be in response. And we know that we have 3 options to choose between because each choice is a different combination of order between sensory, motor, and interneuron. So we have to figure out which is the order of those 3 events. So step 1, you feel the sensation. So there's some sort of sensation we see in the diagram. And let's say, as our example for going through this, that it's something hot. So you feel something hot. A hot item, let's say. So based on that, when you feel something hot, do you think that the step in this example of feeling it would be a motor response or a sensory response or interneuron based on those 3 choices? Well, it is a sensation, and this would involve the sensory neuron. So sensory neuron, we know would be our first option. So we have sensory neuron or sensory neuron there. So now after you feel the sensory neuron, we have to get to another step to then have an effect and a response. So we'll come back to option 2. Going to step 3 here, what do we think our last response would be? Well, if you feel something hot, you feel that hot sensation in part 1. In part 3, the very last step would be to move your hand away. So you want to move your hand away. That's the last step because this is the effect. We know our last step leads to the effect, and the effect is to move your hand away. Let's say, so if you're moving your hand away, what are you doing physically? You're doing a motor response, a movement response. So we know that step 3 should be a motor response, and if it's a motor response, then this would involve the motor neuron, and then that would be in our place for the last part here. For step 3 would be our motor. So then what would go in the middle between feeling something hot, feeling that hot sensation, and then that motor neuron response? Well, we would need something to interconnect it, and that would be your interneuron. And therefore, we have our 3 steps here. We feel the sensation, then there's the interneuron connection, and then the motor neuron response to then move your hand away. And therefore, option B would be our correct order of these 3 options.